What's good, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome back to the Water Boys channel. As we got a few topics we're going to dive in today. Kadarius Toney, whether or not the Giants might be prime trade candidate partners in the draft, and also Brett Veach let us dive a little bit into their mindset, into the draft war room. But before we do dive into these topics, please be sure to subscribe to this channel, as I will keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. We are pushing 400 subscribers. It'd be nice to break it by the time the draft kicks off, and I will go live draft weekend, so you do not want to miss out on that as well. But without further ado, let's dive into this video. It's funny, so there's so many different avenues we could start with this video, but I'm going to start with the thumbnail, the title of the video. Let's dive right into Kadarius Toney. Now, there was, I guess, kind of shocking reports. It depends on who you talk to or who you view on as the Giants or view as the player Kadarius Toney, that the Giants came out publicly. Was it their GM? I know it was someone inside the organization. I'm not too familiar with the Giants, but I know it's someone in their organization saying that they are making calls to trade Kadarius Toney. Now, that's a shocker to me in one aspect. It's vice versa on how I thought that would go. Now, if you didn't catch my video, there's a video out on my channel where I have my top 5 wide receiver candidates that the Kansas City Chiefs can trade for. And at number 5, I had Kadarius Toney as a sneaky option. And I didn't know whether or not to really believe into that hype back then, but now we're here, now he's available. The reason I find it kind of like mind-boggling is they're the ones making the calls, not fielding the calls. So, I mean, it's probably going back and forth, but the fact that the initial report is that they're making the calls means that they're going to try to get him off this team by draft weekend, by Thursday. And, of course, now Kansas City, a wide receiver needy team, as a lot of people do view it. If you look at a lot of Chiefs Kingdom, though, including myself, it's fun to talk about these wide receivers like DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin. You got Kadarius Toney now. The list can go on, because when you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, we're going to talk about the receiving core, and then when you lose a receiver like Tyreek, he needs to be replaced. But you can also look at a different aspect, which I do as well, is you sign a Juju, you got McCole ready to break out this year for a contract year, MVS, another speedster, you got Josh Gordon ready to prove himself, Corey Coleman ready to prove himself. You got Darius Fountain. I always mispronounce his name. But you got a nice receiving core. The only issue with that receiving core is for the future, which you can also address in the draft too. Because after this year, most of those guys can either walk or re-sign. We'll have to see how free agency plays by then. But again, we're not going to dive that far ahead. But they can also draft for guys in the future too. What makes Kadarius Toney's trade situation, I guess, more special than like a Deebo Samuel, a Terry McLaurin, AJ Brown, like I mentioned, those big name guys. Even though Kadarius Toney hasn't proven that much in the NFL, we know what he's done in college. We know that he's probably one of the most shiftiest players in the NFL, if not shiftiest. And he's like elusive, again, or if not one of the most elusive. He's a scary player when he has the ball in his hand. The other thing too is he's literally in the second year in the NFL. He was a rookie first-round draft pick. That means he's got a 5-year contract with the 5th-year option. So Kansas City, if they were to trade for him, they would only owe him $1 million, which makes it really, really enticing. Now, the Giants wouldn't just give him up with all those good, with all those good of him being an explosive, exciting player, young player on a rookie contract, only owed $1 million. Of course, there's going to be some negatives with it, and it's all got to do with health concerns and also the personality of the player. And right now, both of those are weighing the Giants down. Again, I don't know what Kadarius Toney is doing inside the organization. I don't know what he's done back in Florida too, because people say these character traits even go back then too. I haven't seen anything huge off the field. I have seen where he's a very vocal player. If I'm missing out, let me know in the comments down below. I know in his first 2 years, this is his second offseason where he's missing basically spring OTAs, and this is huge because for the Giants, it's Brian Dable, Mike Kafka. It's all new head coaching, so you would think they would be welcoming of a player of his stature, of his capabilities on offense. And the fact he's not showing up does raise an eyebrow and raise questions onto why is he acting out. And also too, it could be he just might not want to be a New York Giant. He might not ever want to have been drafted by the New York Giants. That could be a tell of the story too. There's always two sides to the story. Now, if I was the Kansas City Chiefs, would I draft him? Draft him. Would I trade for him? I would. But now I'm seeing trade scenarios. This is where it gets interesting. Now, KC really has all the leverage in this if they really want Kadarius Toney, and if it's true that the Giants are the ones making the call. Because that means they, like I mentioned, have all the leverage. Giants don't hold any leverage in this. So if the Giants are going to ask for one of the first round picks, no, not happening. And I've seen some Chiefs fans, even Giants fans, be like, what would it hurt to take the 29th or 30th away from Kansas City for Kadarius Toney? That's not an option. Definitely if you guys are calling us. Honestly, how I would view it is maybe the 62nd pick in the second round, and I might not even budge on that. I might go for the third round pick, and I give you the 94th, just straight up for him, and that's how would that be. But Giants, they're looking for more picks, and this is where I mentioned Giants might be a trade partner for KC. Now let's fast forward, or not fast forward, let's rewind to what Brett Veach said in his press conference today about the draft strategy. One key note he mentioned was KC might likely trade up, but might trade up between that 19 and 22 spot range, which we all kind of predicted. But he said something unforeseen would have to happen for KC to trade into the top 10. Giants hold 2 top 10 picks. Now, I think it's the 8th position. This is where things get really interesting. Let's say a Trayvon Walker or a Kayvon Thibodeau falls to 8. Does KC come calling for the Giants and they try to work out like this huge blockbuster? And when I mean huge blockbuster, I'm about to blow minds away, and I haven't even really scripted this or anything like that onto what a draft or a trade, draft day trade would amount to equate into actually being good for this. But let's say Kansas City wants to trade the 29th, the 30th, and let's go with a third round pick, and then next year's 1 or 2. I know a lot of KC fans won't like that. That's why I said I'm just brainstorming right now. But if one of those 2 DNs are there to get to 8, then to take Kadarius Toney, and I'm not even done here either, and to snap James Bradberry. That'd probably be one of the hugest draft day trades ever. But again, I don't think it's going to happen. But let's open our minds, because I'm not even going to stop there, because I like what Brett Veach said. Something unforeseen would have to happen to jump into the top 10. But let's focus on a Kadarius Toney and a James Bradberry package deal. Even at that, I'm still holding steel on my first round picks. I'm dead set on it. What I would do in that scenario, I would give you the second round pick, the 62nd, and I would give you the third round pick in the 103. And I think that's more than enough. You're taking on a player who's apparently disgruntled in your organization, who you're making the calls for, so you want him off the team. Also, too, James Bradberry, a really good corner. But there's a reason you haven't traded him yet. And you haven't traded him yet because that contract is hefty. So you think I'm just going to give you a first round pick? You think I'm going to give you 2 second round picks for that? Not going to happen. I'll give you 1 second round pick, and I'm going to give you a lesser in second round pick, unless you wanted to take our 50 and then we swap instead, so we're not really losing anything on that. I'll take a swap, and then I'll give you the third to get me both those guys, and then that's good. And that addresses needs on KC, cornerback and wide receiver, and KC can still address wide receiver down the line, and if they want, if the cornerback of the liking is there in the second, because they still would need that, or in the first, and then you just have fun and choose edge rushers from there. But it's going to be interesting, because Giants can be an interesting trade partner, whether KC wants to make a huge blockbuster deal and go all the way in the top 10, or if they want James Bradberry and Kadarius Toney and try to package something together. I think it'll work. I don't think KC should mess around with their first round picks in this scenario. Now, KC can mess around with them in other scenarios, which I'll get to right now. Like I mentioned, Brett Veach, he made some interesting points in this draft, which are not surprising, but also should let a lot of Chiefs Kingdom know where this draft stands for the Chiefs. He mentioned that they only view 16 to 18 players as first-round picks in this draft. Now that, as NFL reporters have mentioned, does range into what a lot of teams vary. They vary from the 18 to 22 range. KC's at 16 to 18. Now, at them picking 29 to 30 means KC's hoping one of their top 15, let's say top 15 players, falls to a 20, where they can make a trade but not also hurt the bank at all and hurt their draft capital too much, to where they can get one of their players and then they can still build this team in the back half of the draft, which Brett Veach wants to do, which will lead me to this point too. Is I've mentioned it so many times, I don't think Casey's picking 12 times in this draft, but he has mentioned he's having fun with it. He says he loves having 12 picks right now, so it could be interesting, and I could be completely wrong, but focus on that 30th pick, because he also mentioned the deepest part of this draft is between picks 60 and 80. He loves that tier in that area. I think he mentioned 60 and 80. I know it was in that 60 range, in that second round, third round area. I wouldn't be surprised if Brett Veach trades the 30th to get into that range. As I mentioned, this is a deep draft, but in that 29 and 30 range is very tricky, because when your top wide receivers come off the board, when your top edge rushers come off the board, when the top cornerbacks come off the board, you end up reaching at the 29th and 30 spot when they might be available in the 40 and 50 area, and Chiefs Kingdom's going to wonder, well, what the hell is KC doing? Well, they're doing what they need to do to get a player, because if they don't get them at 29 and 30, they're not going to be there at 50, and they're not going to be there at 62, so they have to nab them. I think Brett Veach would be smart, and I think it's on his mind that, hey, trade that 30 and get another second and third, and then we don't got to worry about any of that. So that was another interesting note to see. And also, Chiefs Kingdom, I did mention too, what he mentioned was the running back position. Now, it let us know a lot. The Chiefs have 4 7th round picks, and he's liking how deep this running back draft is. And he said, don't be surprised by Sunday if Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Ronald Jones has another running mate with them. That's interesting take. I love to hear it, because you never know where this running back draft class can go. You never know. Again, same with the running backs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he is on a rookie deal, but also it's like a prove it time, because he's been injury prone and he hasn't really lived up to that first round pick. You could definitely ask Chiefs Kingdom that. And Ronald Jones, we hope he hits the ground running, but that's another 1-year deal. If he, the prove it deal, he knocks it out of the park, he might leave Chiefs Kingdom. So, Chiefs, if they draft a running back in the 6th or 7th round, it'd be fun to see. It would be interesting to see. I know there's more takes that I'm probably missing out on this Brett Veach press conference, but you guys let me know what was the most interesting Brett Veach takes that you took away from his press conference today. And also, too, the main topic of discussion, a lot of people are thinking it could happen, Kadarius Toney to Kansas City. Do y'all see it happening? Do y'all see a package deal happening with Kadarius Toney and James Bradbury? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm going to check out, but before I do, I'm going to make it an interesting weekend. Tomorrow, I'm going to have my original mock draft. I know I usually come on Saturday, but I had this news. I wanted to get this out, but then I'm going to fast forward, and Sunday I'm going to give you the simulator, and then I'm going to be on a little vacay, and then when draft comes, we're going to have fun with it. So please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I want to hit that 400 mark, you guys. I really do appreciate everyone who supports the channel, and please give me that big thumbs up. I am checking out. You guys take care.